My face currently feels like I've been run through by Tom Stewart.
Puts it to the top of the square. Oh, beautiful little fist in there by Dale. Crucial centimetre moments.
He definitely has a bit of the Belcho spirit. As I have a bit of the Belcho spirit.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Back Pocket Podcast, the only podcast that is tanking as hard as Alistair Clarkson's coaching record. My name is Alistair, joined as always by Jack. This is the Back Pocket.
That's us. Thank you for telling everyone what podcast it is this week. I did forget last time. It's good that North are ruining multiple coaching careers. Ratton went in there with a perfect 50-50 record, tarnished completely. Clarkson's is very quickly headed down the drain now.
I have more on this later.
Oh, okay, cool. We can move on from that.
This podcast is about defenders, not Alistair Clarkson's coaching record.
It sure is.
So, to explain how it works, every week we give votes ranging from 1 through 5 for the best defenders of the week, depending on how we feel. Defensive efforts, accumulation of half-back, vibes, whatever we feel. So, as I did the intro, Jack starts with his one vote.
I sure do. I thought I would give a top 5 this week before we run into things, to give people an idea of where the votes stand.
Oh yeah, we don't often do that.
Currently, first is Alex Pearce on 18, Stephen May on 13, Sam Taylor on 12, Tom Stewart also on 12, followed by Nick Floston on 11.
That seems...
Top 5 are too clear of the next best, so...
Seems fine.
Anyway, my one vote this week is to Callum Wilkie.
Okay, fair enough.
I thought he was solid as a rock. They held up well for most of that game. He only had 13 disposals, but went at 100%, had 7 intercepts, 6 contested, 9 marks, 5 of those were intercepts, 3 contested. He had 5 defensive half pressure acts and 9 spoils, and won both his one-on-ones. He did pretty good. George Yode's had a few shots on goal, but didn't kick any of them, which is the more crucial part.
Does help, doesn't it?
But yes, my one was Callum Wilkie.
Yeah, I think he's having a slightly underrated season. My one vote, I think I gave him a couple of votes a couple of weeks ago. Mark Keane from
Mark
the
Keane
Adelaide
again,
Crows.
yeah, he was in my special mentions this week. He was good.
That whole defensive three of Keane, Worrell, and Michelani, I think is how I pronounce it. They're going really well, despite being, in general, undersized, underexperienced.
Yeah.
They dominated that defensive 50. 5 spoils, 9 marks, no contested losses. Did he play for Collingwood previously?
He did, yeah.
Or was on their list?
He went home during COVID.
Yeah, I think they'd really like to have him back.
I think they would.
I think they'd really like that. Happy one vote.
My 2 this week is to Darcy Moore.
A special
I
mention.
put in brackets, he's back, baby. He was really good. He had 23 touches, 12 intercepts, 6 contested, 8 marks, 5 of those were intercepts, 2 contested, 6 spoils, 7 defensive half pressure acts, 6 rebound 50s, 3 score involvements and 1 launch. Big part of why they were held on to win that game. Essendon looked like in that last 10 minutes they were going to try and turn it over. Draw that game, is what I meant to say, not lose. Big fan of Darcy Moore's game, thought he played really, really well.
I think if you do look at it...
Outside of those first 3 weeks, he's been back to form.
Yeah. But as far as that game goes, Essendon missing that shot to win. Collingwood are happy to draw.
Oh, for sure. But then the drop chest mark from Elliott inside 50 at the other end. Both teams breathing massive sighs of relief.
2 points is better than no points.
Sure is.
My 2, every week, seems to be sneaking in. Zach Guthrie.
Yep.
I think he played the Stewart role perfectly again. Had a game-high amount of rebounds, 7 intercepts, 15 pressure acts as the roaming defender, which is a lot. Got himself into space that really shut down that Carlton forward 50 effort. So that was, I think, really good from Baby Guth.
Yeah, he was really good. Dad messaged me multiple times during that game about how well Guthrie was going, and then again afterwards, and I have to agree. He's just... he'd have to be in All-Australian talks if you stop the season now.
I think he would be, yeah.
He's just playing really, really good footy.
Interesting to see how it proceeds. Obviously, Stewart's back next week. He missed a half last week when we gave Guthrie votes, and he's missed this game when we gave Guthrie votes.
Yeah,
so
and obviously he plays that Stewart role.
Interesting to see how it proceeds from there. But yeah, right now I'd probably have him in the team.
My 3 was to Andrew brackets Ash McGrath, as he was called during the game on the weekend, which would have been crazy if he was out there, especially in Essendon colours. But he actually got 6 coaches' votes for that game. Had 31 disposals, playing a semi-lockdown role on Elliott. Not Elliott, the other one, Hill. And who, when McGrath wasn't on the ground, looked very dangerous. And when McGrath was on the ground, did a lot less. Had 10 intercepts and 9 contested. 2 spoils, 5 rebounds, won both his one-on-ones, and had 442 metres gained.
Going at 80% if you didn't mention that as Rita.
I didn't mention that as well, but yeah.
He was my 5 votes.
Was your 5?
Yeah.
Totally fair. He was brilliant, I thought.
So my 3 is going to Jake Lever.
It was my 5.
Your 5. There
Nice
we go.
little swapsies.
Most disposals of the match at 26, which is crazy for the intercepting defender. But it's like an actual key, not like a Tom
I even
Stewart.
wrote leading for the game on there as well.
15 intercepts, 10 marks for the game. Didn't lose a defensive one-on-one. Great game. I mean, they're playing Richmond, right? So you can
playing that first half, they were trying their best to lose to Richmond, and I think Jake Lever was the only reason they weren't. I also had 4 intercept marks, 2 contested marks. He had 8 defensive half pressure acts and 4 score involvements. Really, really good. We know Lever's good. It doesn't have to be said much more than it already gets said, but that team would be a mess without him and May.
Definitely.
Especially when you get a team like on the weekend who shuts down Petrarca the way that they were able to.
It will be very interesting to see how that progresses.
He's going to have to either stop going forward or learn how to shake that tag because teams just following him down forward with the wingman is really crushing his game. My 4 this week was to Jacob Wittering.
Same.
I put 0 coaches' votes brackets robbed. I cannot believe... I know coaches see the game differently to us, but he and Mackay were in my best 3 players on the ground. Geelong had 18 goals and Hawkins had 0 goals and 1 mark for the game.
Yep.
He had 19 disposals of his own, 11 intercepts, 7 contested, 12 marks, 6 of those were intercepts, 5 rebound 50s, won all 4 one-on-ones with Hawkins, 6 defensive half pressure acts, 5 score involvements and 4 score launches. Incredible game. If he doesn't play like that, Geelong win that game more comfortably.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Wild.
He's had Hawkins' number for a couple of years now. Yep. I think probably since COVID happened, really.
Yep.
He's one of the few players in the league who has the strength to match him. And it's become really good to watch. Obviously, as a Carlton fan, I like it, but just as a defensive fan in general, it's really good to see someone actually able to hold their own in those guerrilla situations.
It's crazy watching him play. And I know it's so simple to say it from the couch, but he plays Hawkins exactly how you beg players to play Hawkins. He sits on that back shoulder when the contest comes. He makes sure he's in the right spot. He doesn't allow himself to get pushed under the ball, which is a big problem with Hawkins because he doesn't even use his hands. He just pivots the hip and off you go. Played the game to perfection, really. Like I said to you the other day, what more could he do? And you said maybe stop Cameron from kicking goals as well. But
play on both of them somehow.
You got any special mentions this week?
I did, but I forgot them. I didn't write them down.
I also had...
yes, Tom McCartan is my special mention. I don't know if we've given him votes this year, but
Not this year,
he's been really good all year.
Sydney,
Super underrated.
Sydney are, I think, one of the only teams that have had no votes from us this year.
No, surely I've given votes to the Lizard.
Not yet. He was in my special mentions this week.
He was also a special mention for me.
My closest without a vote was Harry Himmelberg. And I also thought Tom Cole played a good game on the weekend. All done. That's votes.
That's votes.
That's the hard part.
Total segue. We're going back to Alistair Clarkson. What do you think Reece Shaw's coaching record percentage was when he had to leave North?
13%.
34%.
Wow. That's a lot better than I thought it would be.
David Noble, when he left, what was his coaching record?
25.
No, it was 15.
Okay, that's closer to what
14.47.
So I was more thinking Noble when I thought of Shaw than I guess.
Alistair Clarkson currently has the same coaching record since joining North Melbourne as David Noble. David Noble's last game was against Collingwood in 2022. So they were good that year. They lost the prelim by like a kick.
They did, yeah. They I think they belted Geelong in a semi or a qualifying or something.
I'm not sure how they got there, but David Noble's last game, they lost to that Collingwood side by 7 points, and he got sacked. Do you think if Alistair Clarkson's North played Collingwood this week, they would lose by 7 points?
No, I think they'd lose by 70 points.
80 plus. It's been 2 years since then. They've had 2 rounds of draft picks. Obviously, Jason Horne-Francis was a miss, but they've drafted more in his place. It's not good.
It's not good.
Do you know who David Noble has a 100% win rate over? Alistair Clarkson.
That's so good. That's so good. I love that.
When I saw that stat, I couldn't help but laugh.
It's a bad record, but everything about North is bad at the moment. I think that's a big part of the problem. Like, how far does it go before the AFL gives them some crazy picks or shuts them down or moves them?
They're not going to be shut down. I don't think anyone talking about that. Like, it's fun to joke about it, but
I don't
they
think
won't
it will
be shut
happen
down.
either. But I'm also not sure that's a good thing.
It wouldn't be as bad if we didn't have a bottom four that seems as bad as it does.
Yeah, and North have been so uncompetitive for several years. Like, at least last year, Hawthorn looked competitive in patches. This year, West Coast have looked very competitive. And
They've sort of jumped out of that bracket somehow this year so far.
West Coast were ninth only a few years ago.
Yeah.
Like, North have just been uncompetitive for a very long stretch.
It's coming close to over half a decade.
Yeah. Not what you want.
No. And those picks are supposed to turn clubs around. Their senior players, Luke Davies-Uniacke, seems like he doesn't give a shit at the moment.
No, he really is not looking as good as he was last year.
No.
And a lot of their talented youngsters look like they're stopping, like not looking as strong as they were. And it would be hard to when you just keep showing up every week and you keep getting that kind of result.
Yeah.
Yeah, you feel for it.
It's almost like we might be better off playing a VFL side in the AFL. But we
Bull
still have
ants,
that-
baby, let's go.
No, not the Bull Ants. Definitely not the Bull Ants. Yeah, it's rough. Anyway, that's my North Melbourne talk. I just wanted to talk about those stats.
No,
Now
that's
you do your thing where I
totally
just
fair.
respond to what you've said for the week.
I put a call out, which you did respond to as well, for some 22 ideas. You did put out the best suggestion, which was
Yes.
kill Alistair live on the podcast.
That's the second best suggestion I made. My other one will
It's good,
actually
yeah.
do, but we have to do research.
That
for
one's
it.
a lot more research. So another one I did today, in my procrastination time, was someone requested like an upside down 22. So, as per listed on the AFL website, defenders with like the most goals and forwards with the most intercepts.
Oh, okay, as in current players?
Yeah, so I did this season only, the
Okay.
games played. And I took it a bit further than that because I thought those stats were too simple. So defenders had to have one of all three of a goal, a goal and a goal assist. They had to have both
Okay.
of those. Midfielders had to have a goal, an intercept, a spoil, and a goal assist. Forwards had to have intercepts, intercept marks, spoils, and rebound 50s.
Okay. You're going to read through me 22 players right now live on the podcast? Yeah. Okay.
And the ruckman, I thought what was the least ruckman things I could go for. So I went with disposal efficiency. I went with ground ball gets.
Okay.
And I went with goal assists. You think goals would be more of a ruckman thing, but this year it's really not.
No.
Ticking off the goals box removed most of the rucks in the comp. So backline is Hardwick, Weddle, and Hoskin Elliott.
Okay.
Halfback Holmes, Lukosius, Zorko. Centerline Gordon, Heaney, Akers.
Okay.
With rucks of Jackson, Bontempelli, Petrarca. Half forward, Matt Kennedy, Sam Darcy, Justin McInerney.
Okay.
Full forward, Noah Bolter, who's listed as a forward because he's been one this year. Hayden McLean and Cooper Sharman.
Okay. I'm confused. So most of those are forwards.
Yeah. But they have intercepts.
Okay, alright, I understand.
They have
I thought
backman
we were
stats.
doing backman
No.
with
no.
the most of that stat being in the forward line.
No, the backman with the most of that stat are in the back line. So Blake Hardwick has 6 goals
Yes.
for the year. That's why he's there in the back
Yes,
line.
I thought we were doing it the other way
Well, we
around.
could just flip
So
the team.
Blake Hardwick would be in the
We
forward
could just
line.
flip the team. That's
Yeah,
fine.
It's just confusing when you're like... I'm also not looking at a list. I'm looking at your face, so I'm not really...
I'll post the list sometime later this week. The bench is Bailey Dale,
Yeah.
Matt Rowell, Brad Hill, and Jeremy Cameron.
How did you decide your bench? One defender, one midfielder, one forward,
2
one ruck?
forward, one key forward, one medium forward, because Sam
Okay.
Darcy can ruck. And the sub, I put the person who had spent the least time off the field this year, which is Ben Mackay, who has spent 99.7 minutes on field.
No, no,
So far this
7%?
season.
Or...
Yeah. Percent of minutes on field this season. And that was fun to make, even though I
Had a good productive day at work, huh?
did actually. I had a really productive day.
I doubt
I had like 3 meetings, and then one of the meetings I finished all the tasks they asked me to do. All right, quick thoughts on the weekend's games. Richmond, Melbourne.
Richmond did all right in the first half.
It was hard to watch in the first half.
Yeah, but they did all right.
Essendon, Collingwood.
Good game.
Great
And that
game.
day usually doesn't hold up recently, but I thought that was quite
was
a
a
good
ripper.
game. No extra time.
No, draws are
Draws.
good.
Draws are good.
Draws are good. Neither of those teams deserved to win that game. They both had a chance to win it, and
Yeah,
didn't,
and they
frankly.
didn't.
Cheetah West Brisbane
Brisbane are cooked.
in trouble.
So we recently said on the podcast that we are underrating them and that they can come back. I'm not walking that back completely because they have a very easy
next
6
6
weeks.
weeks are
But they look like they
That was a horrible performance.
too slow for the rest of the competition.
Yeah, I think their midfield's a worry, which is strange because it was their strength. But with how quick the game is now, and I feel like they lack strength and speed in the middle.
Their most explosive mid is Josh Dunkley, and that's not enough.
Yeah.
Put that up against the other best midfields in the comp, and they lack. So, speed, strength, it's a worry.
Forward line is the forward line.
Back
It's
line
now
is mixed.
on my rating system now the worst ranked forward line in the comp.
Yep, I would believe that. Darcy Gardner should not be there. Get him out.
Adelaide's risen considerably. West Coast has risen considerably.
Yeah. Well, Jake Waterman single-handedly grabbing them up from the bottom.
yeah. Port Adelaide, St Kilda.
Port Adelaide beat a team below them.
Yep, they sure did, and they sure do often. I think
Closer than it should have been.
St Kilda would be happy with that game than Port.
Yep.
Frankly.
Port should have won that by 40. They haven't.
North Adelaide.
Next.
It's nice to play Adelaide to make your team look good, isn't it? Play North, I mean. Other way around. Geelong Carlton.
Really good game.
Probably game of the year.
Chris Scott's a really good coach.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think Carlton with numbers back win that game. And in 7 weeks' time, there's a very good chance they'll have those numbers back.
It'll be very interesting, and it's back at the MCG, Carlton home game, so it might be a louder crowd.
The Geelong crowd were pretty
It's
loud.
their biggest home crowd
ever.
So, non-finals.
And like, normally I think that when you have a Carlton, Collingwood, Hawthorn game, a lot of that is the other team filling in general admission. Geelong crowd were actually loud. It was really good.
It's a good time slot too.
It is, yeah. Fremantle Bulldogs.
Fremantle almost kicked 100.
They did. It was it got to the third quarter and I was like, this is looking very typical and like all it's going to take is the Bulldogs to have a quick patch. And then Freo had the quick patch. Freo kicked the burst of goals. They'd be really happy with that game. The Bulldogs would be livid.
Yeah, I think Fremantle lack a dynamic mid as well, but Nathan Fyfe pulled one out of his ass.
He was brilliant.
That's what they've needed in the middle. If he can do that for the rest of the year, it'll go a long way to pushing them towards final. But their forward line's still a worry.
The kid looked really good in the last quarter. He came on too. Cooper Simpson.
Oh yeah.
Obviously,
I wanted to draft him, so
obviously Sting out of the game. Take it or leave it. But he was really, really good. And yeah, such an 8-point game that really could decide who slides into that 8th spot.
yeah. When you are in that sort of 6th to 12th bracket and you're beating those teams in that same area,
important.
8 points.
Gold Coast, West Coast.
People are overblowing Gold Coast quote-unquote youth. I've seen many calls in the media about their academy being ridiculous. Kane Corn said it's going to be a joke when in 3 years' time Gold Coast and GWS play each other in a grand final. I think people are overblowing it.
Gold Coast have still looked garbage away from home this year.
Yes.
Last year they looked good at home all year as well. They lost, I think, two games at home last year. They were both to really good sides. This year, it's looking like it's probably going to be the same again. As soon as they leave Carrara, they look like the Gold Coast of old.
And honestly, you could argue that if you put Reed into that
Reed and
side,
Barras into that team.
it probably brings that score down to about even. I'm not saying Reed's turning
Well,
their team
it was
around
close
by
most
30
of the
points,
game.
but after half-time it blew away from them.
Yeah. But if you had, I think, Barras and Reed in that team, it's probably only a couple of gold game.
He should have been a better boy.
Hawthorn, Sydney, last game of the week.
Training drill.
I feel like we can skip over that one.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen a team demolish the opposition while losing the inside 50s by that much, ever. Hawthorn's forward line is impotent.
Shout out to Matt
completely.
Roberts getting to 80, 82, 84 in
Yeah,
fantasy.
thanks to just the intercept game being on fire.
I remember being in the last quarter and screaming, but I won comfortably.
Heaney with
Thanks, Matt Roberts.
another best on ground from the coaches.
What can you do?
Just keeps going. He had a game where he was best on ground, but at the same time only really did what he needed to. It was a really weird game. He injected himself where he was needed, affected the scoreboard, and then just kind of stayed out of it, which I guess is what you should be doing, what you want your stars to do in games that you win by a lot.
Highlight of the game for me and for you and for Beth was when I celebrated Matt Roberts getting a mark in the middle.
And then kicked it straight to Gordon.
To Heaney, who Beth had.
It was
I thought
Gordon.
Was it Gordon?
Gordon took a mark inside 50.
Either way.
So you went cheering for Roberts' kick, desperate sadness at Gordon mark, and then Gordon misses, and you're like, it's only a 1 point difference. It's all good.
It was really funny.
All good.
And that's why I play fantasy. I actually don't enjoy fantasy that much, but it makes games that
It
I
does.
don't care about more fun.
It gives me a reason. We would never have watched the second half of that game.
No.
If it was not for the fact that we both had players playing in it.
I was just watching for Matt Roberts. He's my boy.
All right, pops and flops.
Ah,
I've done as much research into this as you have this week, so I will try my best.
okay.
Pops first.
Sure. Let's be positive and then talk shit. I guess I will just say pop. Fixturing. It was a pretty good round, despite the fact that it was spread out. The AFL did a good job of having good games on. So even though Brisbane and GWS was a wash, that's one from last year you could have expected to be quite good. Obviously, Essendon Collingwood was good. Geelong Carlton in that Saturday evening.
Great
and then
spot.
also Fremantle and Bulldogs actually around the same spot as well on the ladder. Sunday's a dead zone, but Gold Coast, West Coast ended up being okay.
Yep.
So, decent fixturing for once. Let's see if they can hold that up.
Yep. My first pop was Dan Disco Turner.
Yeah.
Melbourne's found a key forward for the first time in years, and it's a fullback from the VFL.
That's not the first time in years.
No, it's
what are you
not.
talking
They
about?
found a few.
Every year
Every year
they
they
find
find
two
one.
or three, and they have a really good breakout game. Van Rooyen's probably been the most solid, but Harrison Petty, they're playing up forward. He's a defender.
Ben Brown. Not defender, but...
We'll see. Let's see if he can back it up week
Anyway,
two.
I really
Who are
like
they
this
playing?
game. I like that his nickname's Disco. They're playing
I don't
Geelong.
think Disco Turner's going to kick 3 against Geelong.
You might be right. But I still really liked it.
Pop. Yeah, this is a struggle for me. Yeah, Nat Fyfe back.
Yep, that's
Already
fair.
mentioned it, but I think that's a pop. I would like it if he could keep that up because it's kind of sad seeing a star just be okay.
My second was just draws. I like draws. I think we should keep draws. I always think it's really fun when there's a draw, even when it's my own team. Sometimes even when it's my own team, twice in a row, like it was a few years ago. Draws are fine.
And then my third will be Jake Waterman, who I already mentioned, but
Yep.
he's kicked 4, at minimum 4, 3 weeks in a row. Oscar Allen's not in the side. If he can continue this form and then be as good when Allen's back,
Yep.
huge for West Coast.
My third pop for the week was less score reviews and less free kicks just in general throughout the weekend. The game was so much better for it.
It was frustrating.
Yes, but it's because what you come to expect. But I think if more games were score reviewed like that and umpired like that, you would have better games of football. And we saw it across the whole weekend. Some games we were much more invested in than others. But like even on Anzac Day, like there were so many frees that were just not paid that would have been in other games, and so few score reviews compared to what we've seen for the rest of the weekend. I wonder if maybe the new head of umpiring before he came in to start the week this week was like, hey, maybe we'll steady on a bit.
You did say that, but I'm starting to think you might be like tinfoiled. You're all over Crypto.com. You're all over New Umpire.
Well, I still believe, like,
coming in.
even the commentators have been talking about Crypto.com now. That's how bad it
because they
got.
all follow the Back Pocket AU on Twitter.
That's so true. Some of them do, weirdly. Who were your flops?
I had one and I just forgot it. God damn it, Jack. You made me forget it because I talked about Crypto.com.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
I guess just Brisbane in general, right?
Yeah, Brisbane's a bit of a flop. My first flop was like contrary to your good fixturing, which I agree with. Too many days of footy.
Yes, I do agree with that.
We don't need an Anzac Day Eve game. I think that's too much. I'm fine with it going Thursday through.
Sunday.
Having the 2 games on Thursday because it's a public holiday, totally fine. The Wednesday just made it way too long. Easter weekend's the same. It's too many days. Can't do it.
5 days too many, 4 days is fine.
Yeah.
We've got 4 days next
3's sweet spot.
week. I can't remember any of my flops.
All right.
I should write these
Melbourne
down.
versus Richmond first half was my other one. That was painful to watch. And Anzac jumpers.
Yeah, that's a big flop
We don't
for
need
me.
them. A few teams this week did what we wanted teams to do. Hawthorn did it. West Coast did it. A few teams just had the poppy. I thought Melbourne's was pretty sensible as well. But when you do one like an Adelaide one, it's just too much. It's
tacky.
It is tacky completely. We can move on from flops if you don't want to rag on anyone.
Yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm just a positive guy, you know.
Yeah, of course. Cool. Well, I actually didn't fill in any of the segments this week. So I'll move on to the one thing that we do have written down, and then we can figure out what else to talk about. But our game of the week last week, we both said Geelong Carlton, but then didn't because we didn't want to ruin it, and it did end up probably being game of the week.
Well, the other games we picked Anzac Day and
I think it was
Bulldogs.
Anzac Day and Fremantle Bulldogs, which
3 best games of the round.
yeah, definitely. So go off us. So we've got Thursday. We've got the showdown.
Should be good. Adelaide seem to be in a bit of form, but maybe not.
Friday we got Carlton Collingwood.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Carlton
the
are
thing
currently
with the
favourites in
showdown
that game.
is that even when one of those teams sucks, showdowns are just weird.
Jordan Dawson, when they were horrible
yeah,
kicking
yeah.
that goal.
Showdowns are very weird. Was it Mitch McGovern?
Yep, that's another one.
Like just a weird time. Then we got the Sydney Derby, which
Another
they
good game.
refuse to call the Battle of the Bridge these days.
Dwayne Russell calls it that
Yeah,
exclusively.
the clubs don't. St Kilda versus North.
And that's the first miss of the
the
round.
battle for relegation.
Melbourne Geelong's a good game.
Should be a good game.
West
West
Coast
Coast Essendon
Essendon
and
is
Perth could be a
interesting.
really good game.
When was the last time West Coast entered a game $2.49?
Years.
And then Sunday. No one cares about Sunday games.
Yeah, Richmond Freo, Bulldogs Hawthorn,
Same.
great. Bulldogs Hawthorn will be great for ruining everyone's fantasy season because they'll see Bulldogs players pick up back into form and they'll be like, awesome. Low break even, Bulldogs player, and then Bevo will make them the sub next week.
Everyone who's looking at Bailey Dale,
Don't do it. He was the sub a few weeks ago and he missed a game the week before.
He scored a 14 and a 56. That's the reason he dropped in price, and he's only just making his break even back because he went over 150 almost 2 weeks in a row. It's a trap. He will be bevoed.
I do hope that the last game of the week, I call the GOAT time slot, the last game Sunday, Brisbane Gold Coast.
And the GOAT playing Matt Rowley.
Matt
We're going to
Rowley.
eat some gabba grass. Gabba grass.
Gabba grass. Look, I hope Gold Coast can finally make a game of a Q-Clash.
Well, we've seen how good they are at home. Let's see if they're okay when they're still in their
They
same
don't have to go as
state.
far.
Yeah.
It's a long bus ride, but
Brisbane, the form Brisbane are in, Gold Coast should prepare for this game, not expecting to win, but expecting it to be close with the chance of winning.
absolutely.
And I think Dimmer, hopefully, will be, well, we know how he's like travelling away from home, but I hope that he will be able to get them into a frenzy because if they beat Brisbane at the Gabba, huge. That means it'll be the 4th game Brisbane have lost at the Gabba this year out of 4, and that will have them pretty much done for the year.
Yep.
And it gives them a huge chance of taking that spot in the 8. So that is the Sunday game to watch out for. Fortunately, the other two don't interest me much.
If you're Brisbane, are you tempted to do like a flip on its head from 5 years ago and send Dane Zorko to Tuke Miller?
Oh,
Like,
no.
obviously
just
Tuke's the
because I
better
feel
player
like the
now.
optics is bad.
The optics is bad, but like, if you want to get under the skin of one of Gold Coast's best players, we know how much those two hate each other.
I was hoping you were going to say that swap Harris Andrews and Eric Hipwood defence and forward, just for fun.
No, I mean, we saw Harris Andrews kick on goal a few weeks ago, and that was bad.
Yeah.
And we've seen Hipwood try and mark. It's not good. I think the biggest insult I've called someone recently was when I referred to Harrison Jones as shitter Hipwood.
You did say that. Don't let say he say that.
And look, Harrison Jones has a lot more time to come on than Eric Hipwood does. I remember when Hipwood had one good prelim final, and then no, it wasn't even a prelim. It was a qualifying final against Melbourne. They lost the prelim that year, and then Brisbane went, "How many years do you want, Eric?" It's crazy. Their forward line, you could afford to have one of those two with a reliable 2-goal-a-game forward. Having both of them means that you have a chance of either kicking 20 goals or 5, and it's horrible. The games that both of them are off, like the weekend, is painful to watch. Just, yeah.
And we brought it up last year, and they turned their form around. We brought it up twice this year, and they haven't turned it around.
Yeah, they had the game against North where
That didn't count.
it was against North.
Did you see the article from Damien Barrett about North buying experience and culture?
No, but please go on.
Damien Barrett
how does
suggested
one buy?
that North Melbourne simply pay Scott Pendlebury $1.3 million at the end of this year to join their club
Okay.
as a, I think he said captain / on-field coaching role.
Bring back the
for a
captain
year,
coach, right?
For a year or two. No. Clarko's still coaching.
Oh, okay. That's a shame.
For a year or two to just bring culture to the club. And he even goes on to the article to say Pendlebury is not the same as he was last year. Pendlebury is almost at retirement. He's 37. Push him out.
Sidebottom needs to retire.
If Pendlebury was to tarnish his history by moving to North for 2 years and losing 40 games, not worth $1.3 million.
I think that Barrett would be looking at the fact that it worked with Sam Mitchell, it worked with Luke Hodge, and it worked with Jordan Lewis.
The difference is,
to an extent, right?
Hawthorn were in a position where they were
pushing
pawning off those stars. They were getting rid of them. So those players wanted to keep going.
Which may have been a mistake.
Scott Pendlebury probably could have hung up the boots at the end of last year after the grand final.
Probably should have.
I think the only reason he didn't was the disposal and the 400 games. And I understand that. That's fine. But you want to get that at Collingwood and then ship off. You're a legend for life at that club and of the AFL in general. Spending 2 years at North and getting yourself to 450 maybe, not worth it.
Also noticed that Geelong burst to premiership favourites after that win on the weekend. After being I think they were 5th or 6th still before the weekend.
They were equal 4th. So they were equal 2nd in your remember I showed you the picture where it was Sydney at the top and then GWS, Carlton, Geelong all at $7. Yep. So I understand why they jumped to favourites.
I do too. I still think GWS should be the team.
I think the problem is Melbourne. It's in Melbourne, the grand final.
Yeah, it's such a huge problem.
If GWS play a Carlton or a Melbourne or a Geelong in the grand final, they're already at a disadvantage. We saw what happened to them when they played Richmond. So
you see Sydney play Geelong. You see all of those games. Brisbane played Geelong in prelim.
You come up against the crowd noise for any of those Melbourne sides. Oh, not Melbourne, but
I get it.
It's tough. But I think right now, even with the issues that I have with their midfield, I think they should be the premiership favourites. One, because they're undefeated and they beat a fellow contender. But it's the way they're coached by Chris Scott. It's got nothing to do with their personnel.
It's really been a masterclass this year. I think every game we've seen such a different plan rolled out to suit the team they're playing and to suit the personnel that they had in the park at the time.
I think... Sorry to cut in on that. Yeah. I think they changed up against Brisbane, so the weather would have changed. I think they would have played this same style they played against Carlton against Brisbane.
Knowing they're not going to get the clearance.
And I think that teams will slowly figure it out as the year goes on. So the question is, has Chris Scott thought ahead and thought about what teams are going to do to stop them? Just like right now, some teams are figuring out GWS, Carlton, and they need to find their second gear. So it'll be interesting to see how the whole seasons go, but right now I would have them slightly ahead.
I think
But there's so many rounds to go, it doesn't matter.
And we still have this stretch that we talked about already. Geelong still have Melbourne, Carlton to come again in 7 weeks' time. They've got Melbourne, Collingwood, Sydney at the SCG, GWS in Geelong. It's a stretch that they are going to be properly tested.
And there's also, some teams are having injury crises. Patrick Dangerfield's already down, but what do they do if Stewart stays out and maybe even Jeremy Cameron goes down? That makes a huge difference.
They lose Colo, I think, is enough to make a huge difference as well.
That was another one I was going to say.
He's so important to letting the other defenders play their game.
So staying fit is huge, and they do have...
My thing is, I said this to a friend yesterday when I was talking about it, I don't think that unless Dangerfield is fit in finals, I don't think they can do it. I don't think that come finals football, that midfield will not stand up.
The pressure will be turned up.
Dangerfield in that first half was immense. As soon as they took him out of the forward line and put him in the midfield, Geelong started winning the clearances.
I swear to God, someone needs to tell him to stop scrambling on the ground.
As soon as
he did his hamstring.
Absolutely. And as soon as he went off, they started losing the clearances again. There was 2 quarters in the middle, and they broke even or won the clearances in those 2 quarters, and that was when Dangerfield was playing on the ball.
Yeah.
Which means that if you play finals without Dangerfield, you can't do it. It's not
And they should manage that for the rest of the season. But we know, on average, that hamstring's going to go again sometime during this season. So.
And last year they got it right. Sorry, year before they got it right. He was out for a few times in the season on the Premiership, and they had him for every final. But they're going to have to rest him multiple times throughout the year after he comes back. I worry that the weight on Guthrie going into the midfield this week to make up for Dangerfield being out, I hope he doesn't get injured as well. So the problem with having an old team, I guess.
Yeah.
Melbourne's got a reasonably old team as well. They're having similar issues around the ground. Collingwood will probably face similar issues as the season goes along. It's just, if you want to keep that experience out there, which has been proven to work recently, that's the sacrifice you have to make, is that you're going to cop those. But yeah, I saw Gerard Whateley say that it's been a, resoundingly successful and watchable season of football so far. I was like, what has he been? 5 to 6 games a week this year have been unwatchable, despite the fact that we've watched them.
He says it on AFL 360 a lot. He previews the week and he starts talking about how every game in there is amazingly watchable. And I'm like, Hawthorn and North are playing teams that are going to beat them by 60. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Most games this year have been terrible.
Yes.
That's why this week was quite impressive.
It was
We had
refreshing.
three good games.
and a couple that were
3 out of
okay.
9. That's not a good hit rate.
No, it's not. We had even a couple weeks ago when we had the upset round, when Geelong knocked off Brisbane, Carlton knocked off GWS. There was a few upsets in it. Even then, it wasn't good games. They were just upsets. West Coast belting Freo wasn't a good game. It was just funny.
I don't know. Gerard Whateley is a suck up for the AFL.
Yes,
so.
he is. And also, he's a Geelong fan, so of course he's been enjoying this year.
Yeah.
This week, I think that the rivalry games that are on should provide us with a better weekend of football, but we don't know that really, do we?
I would say, sitting here, there's potentially 4 or 5 games that are infinitely watchable.
Yeah.
And one of those, you could even extend to West Coast Essendon. So maybe even 6.
And who knows
Showdowns
how
are good.
Freo will travel.
Showdowns are good. Carlton Collingwood's good. Battle for the Bridge should be good. They're in really good form, both of them. Melbourne Geelong, huge test for Melbourne.
Has been a pretty good game for a few years as well, those two.
West Coast Essendon, who knows what Essendon will show up, and will Harley Reid be back in to...
First 2 games of Sunday, forget. And then
Q-Clash.
is very, very interesting to see. But very important to both those teams. Gold Coast need to prove that they can beat Brisbane, but also win away from Carrara, and Brisbane need to prove they can win. I would never have believed coming into this season Brisbane would be 13th after 7 games. I had them top
with 4 games at the Gabba.
Yeah.
No way.
I had them top 4 easily.
Yeah.
So
it's the biggest drop-off of the year, and they've got 6 weeks to put themselves in a position to at least be 8 worthy.
Yeah.
They need to get that confidence and swagger up before they face contenders again.
I think whichever team wins the Q-Clash makes 7th or 8th. They both have a pretty easy draw after that. Gold Coast for most of the rest of the season, Brisbane for the next 6 weeks. But the loser is further off the pace than I think they would like to be. Especially if it's Brisbane. Crikey. If they've won 2 from 8 and none at the Gabba.
I've just been sent a whinging message from my Fremantle supporting friend.
Okay.
The AFL did a club's most underrated player.
Bailey Banfield for Freo.
It wasn't. It was Alex Pearce.
Underrated?
Their captain and the currently leading
All-Australian.
I don't know what the votes did today.
Still leading our
Alex
votes,
Pearce
and
loading.
probably All-Australian fullback right now. Underrated.
And some of them make perfect sense. Mitch Hinge, totally underrated.
Yep.
Matt Cottrell, underrated, but he's been getting his flowers recently. Zach Guthrie, underrated, but also getting flowers recently. What the fuck?
That's terrible.
Also, Cody Waitman, underrated? What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Yeah, okay. Underrated Bulldogs player would be like Bailey
Nathan
Williams.
Broad, still underrated, I reckon, by Richmond fans. Yeah. He's won 3 premierships for them, and I think they still treat him as a bit of a whipping boy.
Yeah. Bailey Williams, underrated Bulldogs. That'd be your correct one, I reckon.
Who have they got for the Bulldogs? Yeah, Cody Waitman, sorry, I did say that.
Bailey Williams, underrated West Coast also.
West Coast is Jamie Cripps, which I think is
probably
true.
Fair.
I think that's Will Hayward or James Rowbottom. I'm
Apparently
not
there's
sure.
another one playing in the Waffle this year.
Another Cripps?
Another Cripps from Northampton.
Nah.
He's 200 centimetres tall and is a very mobile forward.
I think Willem Drew is underrated.
Yeah, I think so.
That's fucking Alex Neil-Bullen. Next.
What's Essendon's?
I don't know what that player is. It's either Perkins or Durham. I think it's Durham, right?
That's Durham. Yeah, that's probably fair.
I could go with either of those.
I think he'd definitely be underrated by other teams' fans as well. Like people who don't watch every game every weekend probably have no idea who Durham is, and he's probably Essendon's most important player at the moment.
Yeah.
I think
unfortunately, we do watch every game most weekends, and it's horrible.
This year it has been.
Like
last year, I loved watching footy last year.
I liked watching the second half last year.
I just mean in general, football was good. This year feels a pale comparison of last season.
It's a wreck. I feel like most weekends I spend watching footy and then I end and I go, why did I do that? Why didn't I do something productive
I
with my time?
genuinely thought that at the end of this weekend. But anyway,
It's alright.
That's footy.
New strat. If a game's boring, we just go play Minecraft at halftime.
the anime quizzes aren't counted anymore. Would you watch a football anime? I'd watch a football anime.
Oh, of course I would.
Can you imagine if they amped it up like the way they do basketball animes?
Blue Lock, but
Oh.
AFL football, I'd watch that. I would watch any type of weird... I would watch a K-drama of an AFL, if they... a startup for an AFL franchise in Korea. I would watch a snooty French AFL film. I would absolutely watch it. The only one I wouldn't watch is a boring Australian film about AFL football.
We don't get it.
When they do the Brendan Goddard's Essendon football documentary, I'm not watching that.
I didn't even watch. I watched the Test, the cricket one.
Yeah.
And it's really great. It's genuinely compelling television.
And they thought, how do we do that for AFL? Let's do it about managers, player managers.
I would never watch even that one they did during the COVID season where they went around a few clubs. I wouldn't. It had no interest to me. It's amazing that almost every other sport has managed to make one that people find interesting. It gained enough traction outside of its own promotion for other people to watch it. Football just cannot nail that. They can't nail a good video game. They can't it's amazing. They are such a massive product. And they just somehow they're so.
Hold on. Have you played Mascot Manor on the DS?
Yeah, it's awful. It might be one of the worst games ever made.
Rose-coloured glasses.
Shit coloured glasses.
That's what you're looking at it as. Go try it again.
In so many ways, the AFL is so lucky that they own such a massive product that is such an enjoyable to watch sport, because every aspect of the marketing, of the management, of the legislation and rule change, everything is a mess.
Controversies.
Everything is a mess about the sport. Yet it just makes billions of dollars a year. It's crazy. The tribunal's a mess.
Yeah.
Everything makes no sense. I don't get why football merch sucks so much.
And it costs so much.
Why is it so bad? Give me stuff to wear that's not a polo or game day that looks cool.
Look at me, Jack. Do you think I can wear game day?
Give me something that looks cool. I had to make my own Easter Mantle jumper last year.
Well, Beth made it, but...
Yeah, that's true. I had to buy the parts. And I'm going to do the same with the Geelong one, because I learned Dangerfield did the same thing when I saw his on TV.
Yeah, because merch is shit.
Even the players think the merch is shit and have to make their own.
Well, Dangerfield's a flog, so of course he would do something different. But, apart from, the basic game day hoodies that they wear when it's cold, it's all crap.
Sucks.
And
also, we should have more clash jumpers that are just fun. Teams should make clash jumpers for teams that look like theirs that just look totally different to their normal kit.
I don't know. I feel like coloured and white, that's a really weird sentence to say. It works enough as a clash.
But I think Carlton and North have both done orange. Teams have worn completely different colours to their kit, usually in a clash against a team with a similar kit to theirs. And it's cool. And people look back at those ones and go, that was really interesting. That's a weird jumper. Bring that back. And then when they do, people love it again.
But I feel like it's 50-50, because if Hawthorn were to walk out in silver next week, you'd be like, that's the worst jumper I've ever seen.
Different. That one was really bad.
Yeah, but that's the gambit you run.
But if it doesn't work, that's fine. Don't bring that one back in a few years' time.
Fremantle should just wear their fucking OG
It looks
Guernsey.
so good.
Anyway, that's all.
Alright. That's about all we've got time for this week.
It's probably the most heated we've ever gotten on the podcast just then.
It's fine. But yeah, hopefully a better weekend of footy this week, because this season's been a drag so far.
It was round 7. Or is this round 7?
That was round 7, just gone.
It feels like we've been watching for 15
We've been watching
weeks.
for 8 weeks, because we had a round before round 7.
Well, we've been watching for 8, but it feels like 15 plus.
Yes.
I'm tired. When are the buys?
Later.
Oh, fuck me. I need 3 trades in fantasy.
Alright, you can find us at the Back Pocket AU everywhere, and we will see you next week.
I've already walked away.